You are now tuning into the Resilient Podcast.
Hello, everyone. It's Rob Aurelius, the host of the Resilient Podcast. Now, the reason why I'm saying I am the host is because today I have some information to share with you all. And as you may know, the first two episodes of the Resilient Podcast have featured myself and my former co-host, Joshie. Josh, unfortunately, will not be able to be a part of the Resilient Podcast anymore because Josh has had some things going on in his personal life, his transition of his weight loss journey, a few other things that are going on. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and Josh has been dealing with that for a while now, mental health. And, he reached out to me a while ago to inform me about the decision. And, also, he is also transitioning and moving. He's leaving from Chicago to Florida. And, as you can see, I'm visibly sad and upset because when I created this podcast, when I even came up with the idea of creating this podcast, I reached out to Josh. I remember when I reached out to him, it was late 2023. It was already about the fall time. And I had, like I mentioned in the beginning, in the first episode of our podcast, I had mentioned that I was in Philadelphia, in Center City, waiting for my ex-girlfriend, who was my girlfriend at the time, to pick me up from the bus station. And normally when I used to take the bus and not the Amtrak to Philly to go visit her, I would go into a mall and, there's Wi-Fi there, there's places for you to plug your phone, and you could get food to eat. But I used to go there a lot because I used to go to the Starbucks. There was a nice Starbucks there. And I remember that day, as soon as I got off the bus, I had been thinking about it for a while. And I said to myself, I think it's time that I call Josh and let him know how I feel. And I said to him, Josh, I've had this itch for a while. People have been asking me for a long time, when is ARCG going to create a podcast? When are you going to be on a podcast with someone or whatever the case may be? And, I've been on several podcasts. I've been on business podcasts. I've been on wrestling podcasts. I've been on podcasts that just talk about anything. And, I've been so grateful for all of those interviews that I've had. Some of them are great. Some of them, they got a lot of information out of me. And some of them were decent. But some of the best podcast episodes I've been on as a guest, have been the ones with Megaran, a very good friend of mine, who eventually he will make his way to this podcast as a guest, and my friend Joshie. Joshie interviewed me, I believe, twice on his podcast, the Hoots podcast, and it was a great podcast. It is a great podcast. And, Joshie's at 400 plus episodes. I know that he said that he will be taking a break at some point. And because he's taking a break, I guess this is why, with the Resilient, everything just, came with the territory, right? So another podcast that I've been on, where I've been a guest and I've had a great time, has been on the Style of Business podcast with Keitra. And Keisha's a very good friend of mine, very good associate, and I respect her a lot and I appreciate her. But overall, I want to thank everyone that's ever interviewed me on their podcast, whether I've been on their podcast more than once. Some people I've been on their podcast 2 times, 3 times. I appreciate it. I created the Resilience podcast because at the time when I reached out to Josh, I said, Josh, I want to create a podcast. I don't know what we're going to call it. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Because, Josh's podcast, the Hoots podcast, he talks about professional wrestling. He talks about mental health. He talks about a lot of things, right? So I said to him, whenever I do decide to create this podcast, we're going to have to come up with something, right? Because you can't just create a podcast and not know what you're talking about. I do want to say that when I had that conversation with him and he said that he would be a part of it, it made me feel great. And I said to myself, I can look forward to the day that we start this podcast. And we started this podcast back in April, a little bit after WrestleMania 40. And I was inspired, even though I had already decided I wanted to do it back in 2023. I was inspired to move forward with it even more and to launch this podcast even, a little bit more earlier than I expected. And the reason behind it is because when my ex-girlfriend and I broke up, we broke up in the middle of March, and we broke up a day after we were supposed to pretty much, we already would have had 7 months together. We only dated for 6. And, we spoke on the phone, and it was the last time that we spoke on the phone. It's not the last time that we communicated, but it was the last time that we spoke on the phone. And it was a very long conversation. It was 2 hours, 22 seconds. And I'm listening to my ex-girlfriend talking to me. This was the conversation that we had on the phone where we decided that we were going to break up. She already had been feeling a certain way for a while. I already had been feeling a certain way for a while. There was a lot of distance. We were pretty much growing apart from one another. I was doing my thing. She was doing her thing. But, I know that in the back of my mind, I kept saying to myself, there comes a point where this has to be addressed. And, in January, we had a conversation before I went on a trip. And the conversation was, she pretty much said, look, I'm testing my might. I want a different career. Because I don't know if she still is, but when I was dating her, she was a private investigator. And she said that she wanted to move on and she wanted to focus on a new career. And the career that she wants is a very serious career. And when she shared it with me, I was shocked. But because of the experience that she's had in the past, especially when she was in the military, I said to myself, wow. And the truth is, she felt that the type of person that I am, she knows that I'm a very emotional person. She knows that I care too much. She knows that I wear my heart on my sleeve. She didn't believe that I was going to be able to wait for her until she decided to go through her training and all that stuff. And, I didn't necessarily agree with any of those things. There was a lot of things that she said to me about it, and I felt like it was more of her looking for excuses. But at the same time, I said to myself, maybe this is what she genuinely believes. And, I tried to tell her that, this is not the case at all. But sometimes people think they know who you are. Sometimes people think they know what your expectations are and what your intentions are. And people don't give you, it's kind of like they judge you, and people give you they create this, I guess, how can I put it? They create this image of you. They create this perception of you, right? And long story short, the career that she wants is a career that's very demanding, takes a lot of time out of her, and she just felt that she was going to be emotionally available for me. I, on the other hand, I respected this career change 100%. And I said, I've never been put in this position, but I'm a 38-year-old man. I was 37 when I started dating her. And I said, I have no time to waste. I either want to do something or I don't want to do something. And the way I felt was, I want to do it. I want to wait. And I wanted to prove that to her, that I was going to be loyal. I was going to wait. I was going to be excited. I was going to pretty much, be her cheerleader every step of the way. One of the most beautiful things you can do in this life is support someone. Support is beautiful. A lot of people don't care about being supported. A lot of people don't care about, people validating them, or, because you shouldn't ever really want anyone to validate you. You should validate yourself first, right? But I think it's a beautiful thing when you can cheer someone on. We watch sometimes, shows on TV, for example, like, sports, professional wrestling, like, these professional wrestlers come out to an arena and they fill up seats with thousands of people. And, depending how the match is going, if the match is great, if the match is not doing so well, fans react to it, right? There's always going to be, if the fans believe that the match is not going so well, they're going to boo. If the fans think that the match is going well, they're going to cheer and applaud, when someone wins, right? And that's how I see life, at least one aspect of life. It's always okay to have people cheer for you. It's always okay to have people to support you. We are human beings, and some of us don't have the best upbringing. Some of us never had support, love, trust, and all those other things when we were children. And we grow up with things that we didn't have, and sometimes we become obsessed with them. And I'm obsessed with being validated by people or people cheering for me. But if on the days that I feel bad about myself, or I feel like I'm not doing enough, if someone sends me like a text message or someone calls me and says something as far as, Rob, you're doing a great job. And they may not even know what I'm doing. They may not even be watching what I'm doing, but they just decide that they want to reach out to me and say, Rob, you're doing a good job. I've done that before. I've reached out to people randomly, friends of mine, caught them at some of the most vulnerable moments. And I'm like, hey, you're doing a great job. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I remember twice I did this out of all the times that I did it. And these friends, after I said what I said, both times cried. And they're like, I had a bad day. I've been going through some stuff. I just had a breakup, or I just lost someone, or I just lost my job. And hearing that means a lot. And this is the person that I am. I don't know why. I'll never understand it, because sometimes I question why I am the way that I am. But I'm the type of person that I like to cheer people on. I like to show support. I like to make people feel good. I like to give people that boost that they sometimes may need. And of course, in a perfect world, I wish that all that I give to one person is reciprocated back. But unfortunately, that's not how life works. That's not how the world works. You're going to do things as far as you're going to compliment someone one day, and they may not necessarily say thank you back. You may hold the door for someone who is actually, walking behind you, and they may not necessarily say thank you. We have to learn in life not to take these things personal, because the minute we start taking these things personal, it starts taking a toll on us eventually. So getting back to being motivated to start this podcast, my ex-girlfriend says, I'm testing my mic, I'm going to lock in, and I'm doing this for me because the only person that will take care of me is essentially me. And it got me thinking about all the stuff that I had going on in my life and all the things that have been going on in my life. And I said to myself, okay. And she asked me when we had our conversation where we decided to get closure and break up. She asked me a series of questions. And some of the questions she asked was, who is Rob? What is Rob like? What makes Rob sad? What makes Rob happy? And then she said, when was the last time Rob did something, that made him feel good? And then she proceeded to ask, do you know any of the answers to these questions? And I said, yes. And I remember one of the questions she asked me was, what is Rob willing to die for? And I remember exactly the answer as I heard that question. And I wanted to say it to her. What I was willing and what I'm willing to die for is her. Because I love her so much. I care about her so much. It's been about over a month since her and I last communicated. And we haven't communicated at all. We haven't said a word to each other. The way she's been acting, at least on social media, it's like she's been moving on. She's been making changes. She's been doing things that don't involve me or don't include me. And it's something that's been affecting me mentally because all of this is still new. If this was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that's different. But it's still fresh. It's only been a matter of a few months. It hasn't been 6 months yet. So when I hung up the phone with her, I already knew what I wanted to do. And on that conversation, I remember saying to her, you inspired me. With you wanting to change your career and with you wanting more for yourself, I decided that with everything I got going on, I still want more for myself. So I said to her, you inspired me, and I'm actually going to start this podcast. And again, I still didn't know what the name of the podcast was going to be. I still didn't know when the podcast was going to happen. But after we broke up, I realized we are going to do this podcast. So I reached out to Joshie again. And this time around, I said, listen, I'm ready. What are we going to call it? We went over some ideas. We went over the logo. We went over the theme. We went over everything that needs to be gone over. And we started the podcast. And this is episode number 3. It's a little awkward. It's a little weird because I'm by myself. I never thought I would ever film, record a podcast episode of this podcast by myself. But here I am. And, it took me a few days just to respond to Josh when he reached out to me and told me his decision. And ultimately, all you can do is wish people the very best. Things happen for a reason, right? Don't take anything personal, like I said earlier. And, I had this feeling in my chest for a few days that this was going to happen. And I don't want to say I necessarily manifested this, but this is what happened, And I guess when it happened, I wasn't too surprised. Not to get into details, because I like to respect, my conversations with people that I have that are not meant to be public. But, the way Josh had been acting towards me precisely the last few weeks, I can tell that there was something going on with him. I can tell that whatever it was that was bothering him was so much bigger than anything else he's got going on in his life. And it's the same thing with my ex-girlfriend. Everything that was going on with her was so much bigger than what she's got going on now, like her life itself, right? So, like I said, things happen. Everything happens for a reason. Be thankful for the memories. Be thankful for the moments you shared with people. And all I can say is that I may be shooting these next few episodes solo, but I do promise that I do intend to bring a new co-host on board. Don't know who it's going to be. Don't know if it's someone that I know. Don't know if it's someone who I don't know. And I look forward to having someone take over with me because I need a balance. You know, I don't want this podcast to be about me. This podcast is not about me. This podcast is about resilience. And even though I may be sharing my stories on here with you guys and my journey of what I've been going through as of late in this year of 2024, sorry, we still need a balance. So I do want to take this moment to make a Terramana toast. And for those of you who may know me, I'm a big Terramana lover. Terramana is a tequila, and it's actually a tequila that belongs to Dwayne Johnson. Most of you know him as The Rock, and I've been promoting Terramana since it came out in 2020. This is the Añejo. This is the top of the top. The Blanco is great. The Reposado is great. But the Añejo is special to me because it's my colors. I love black. Black is my favorite color. You see me wearing it all the time. And I also love gold, the color gold, not actual gold, you know, like jewelry. I wear jewelry once in a blue moon, but, you know, very occasionally. So I want to take this moment to make a Terramana toast to Joshi, to everyone out there that is doing things for themselves. Sorry, guys, I'm looking at my glass because I could have sworn that I saw something in there that should not be in there, but it's just Terramana. I'm a little paranoid sometimes. You know, my eyes play tricks on me. But yeah, I want to make this toast to Joshi. I want to make this toast to my ex, Ashley. I want to make this toast to myself. I recently turned 38 years old. And to everyone out there that is trying their very best, this Terramana toast is to you all. Salud. Some of the best tequila ever. Now that we got that out of the way, I wanted to let you guys know that moving forward, I will talk to you guys about what's going on in my life. Some people advise me not to talk about it. Some people advise me to talk about it because they say when you talk about something that's bothering you and you get it off your chest, it actually helps. So if anyone can relate, if anyone can, you know, feel how I feel and resonate with me, great, right? Sometimes I hear stories from people and I actually, you know, say, wow, I resonate with this so well. My ex-girlfriend and I had a lot in common, you know, from like our backgrounds and whatnot and the way we were raised. And the crazy part about our relationship is that I saw old parts of me in her, parts that I outgrew, parts that I healed from. And I wanted to help her see that. And I wanted to help her overcome those things just like I did. But, you know, you got to understand that everyone's healing journey and everyone's, you know, the way people pretty much cope with stuff is very, very, very different. But it's okay to share how you overcame something, how you, put it in the back of your mind and how you pretty much walked away from it and how you grew from it, right? And I feel, because my ex-girlfriend asked me this, what is my purpose? And I feel that my purpose is to be the very best person I can be for myself, first and foremost, and for everyone else. I want to be a good human being. I want to be a good son to my parents. I want to be a good sibling, brother to my other siblings. I want to be a good uncle to my baby niece who was just born a few months ago. Her name is Soraya. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. And I'll definitely be talking about her soon as she gets older. I want to be a good friend, first and foremost, to all my friends. I want to be a good business partner to all my business partners. I want to be a good associate. I want to be a good acquaintance. I just want to be someone that people could respect and trust and remember. So I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting this year. I've been doing self-reflecting for the last few years, but I've been doing most of it the beginning of this year. Because I entered the new year by myself in a hotel in Hartford, Connecticut, where I was just at for my birthday recently. And Hartford is one of my places that I like to go to just to relax, just to clear my mind. There's this beautiful bridge in Hartford. And maybe one day I can show you guys a picture of it or a video on my social media. And when I go on that bridge, depending the season, because I've been to Hartford during the summer, I've been to Hartford during the winter, I've been to Hartford during the fall, I've been to Hartford, during the beginning of the year. It helps me, it's like I'm a happy place. So it helps me clear my mind. And, to finish saying what my purpose is, what I believe my purpose in life is to teach the world, to educate the world, that world peace begins with hello. Hello to a stranger. Hello to anyone. It doesn't hurt to say the word hello to anybody. I live in New York City. Sometimes I see random people in the street, and sometimes, we make eye contact. And I have no problem saying hello to a stranger. Sometimes I have random people coming up to me just to greet me and say hello to me. Never seen them there in my life, but they say hello to me. And it doesn't hurt to say hello back. You should practice this. You should go out every day and, if you're walking in the street, because most of the time people are driving. And for the most part, you're not always waving and saying hello to someone that's driving by you, right? But even if someone is driving by you, or you're stopping at a red light, and you look to your left, you look to your side, to your right, and you see, drivers, and they may make eye contact with you, just say hello. Doesn't hurt. And the reason why I'm encouraging people to say hello to strangers is because you don't know what someone is going through. You don't know if you're the first hello that they've received in a long time. And I have said hello to people. I have asked people, how are you? And the amount of people that have actually said to me, oh my God, I haven't had somebody ask me that question in months, days. I'm like, I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm glad I was the one who asked you today, So, folks, life is short. Life is beautiful. We only get this life once. Let's be a positive influence to this world. That's all I can ask you guys to do. I try to be a positive influence. I know I'm not perfect. I know I've made mistakes. And when I say I've made mistakes, that includes me doing things that I should have never done. I've hurt people. I've hurt myself in the process. That's called self-sabotage. And I'm learning each and every day to try to be a better human. Mainly because I need to be a better human. I want to feel good about myself. There's a woman up in heaven. Her name is Aura Maria Torres, and that's my grandmother. And she passed away on my sister's birthday, December 5th, 2019, at the age of 91 after a 4-year battle with dementia. But before she passed away, when my grandmother was actually good, she would give me advice. She would guide me. And she is one of the best teachers I've ever had in my life. It's fair to say that ever since my grandmother passed away, my life has gone to literally it's gone to shit. I've struggled with a lot of things. I've struggled with love. I've struggled with work. I've struggled with my mental health. I've struggled with just me, like figuring out what I want. And ever since she passed away, I haven't seen her in any, well, I can't say that. I take that back, even before I said it. But I was about to say I haven't had dreams with her. I've actually had dreams with her. I've had dreams that she's still alive. I've had dreams that she's been back. She came back from the dead, which is crazy. And I've had dreams that she's, been there. But none of those dreams has she given me any advice or said anything to me that made an impact. So I miss my grandmother because when she was around, she was the glue that kept my family together. She was the backbone. She was the pillar. And ever since my grandmother passed away, I do want to say that my family has gotten a little bit more dysfunctional because I've had a dysfunctional family my entire life. But I hope that someday I can step into the shoes that she was once in and continue to lead. I feel that that's my purpose. And because my grandmother was such a good person and she cared about people and she took care of people, she devoted her life to people and also to herself. I want to be able to do the same things. This is a true story. When my grandmother had dementia and she started to forget about things and whatnot, she still didn't stop being a philanthropist. She still didn't stop giving. And one of the things that she was doing while she was dealing with this disease, she was going around picking up stuff from the street. Sometimes she would see people leaving, like sometimes, I don't know about other places around the world, but like in New York, sometimes when people want to get rid of something, they just put it outside, and sometimes they put the sign free or, take as much as you want or whatever the case may be. My grandmother took advantage of that. And she was taking some of these things and she was packing boxes. I mentioned in the past that my family comes from the Dominican Republic. And she was still packing boxes. And if people know Dominicans here in America, especially in New York, love to pack boxes to send back home. And when my grandmother passed away, actually, yes, when my grandmother passed away, people brought up this conversation. But before my grandmother passed away, my mother got a phone call. Because over time, when my grandmother was out there with this disease, dementia, she was collecting stuff randomly. And she was taking so much stuff. And one day, I know my aunt, who passed away as well, got a phone call. My mother got a phone call, several phone calls actually. And these phone calls were from people like neighbors and family friends. And, I just saw Aura, walking around with bags or walking around with stuff that she picked up from a garbage pail or something. And I remember my mom, especially my mom, because I would hear my mom when my grandmother would come over to visit, lecturing her. Mom, what are you doing? What are you picking up stuff from the garbage from? Like, and my grandmother would deny it. She would deny it to the core, and she'd be like, "What are you talking about? I didn't collect anything. I didn't pick up anything." And I remember hearing about this and saying, "Oh my God, my grandma's going through the garbage in the streets of New York. You know how many diseases are in those garbage pails, And it turns out, man, this makes me emotional just thinking about it. It turns out that before my grandmother passed away, my mom and my aunt received a phone call from someone in the Dominican Republic who was very close to my grandmother. And she worked for a shelter. And this woman told my grandmother and my aunt, told my mom and my aunt that they wanted to, she was aware of the fact that my grandmother was in the hospital. She was on her deathbed. She was in the hospice. And she just wanted to thank the family because during the time that she was dealing with dementia, she was still packing boxes and she was still sending stuff over to the Dominican Republic. And the crazy part about that is all those times that people kept seeing her in the street and they thought that she was picking up garbage, whether she was digging into garbage pails and taking stuff out, she was taking stuff and packing in a box and sending it to a shelter in the Dominican Republic. When my mother and my aunt heard that and said, so all those times that she was out there picking stuff up, that's what she was doing, they felt so bad. When I heard about it, I felt so bad. And when she passed away, and there was people that came to the funeral, because my grandmother had a funeral for 2 days, because my grandmother knew so many people. There were so many people that wanted to come pay support, pay homage, and pay respect to her and to the family, that it was a 2-day funeral. And I remember sharing that story with people and saying, when my grandmother was walking in the streets of New York looking like a mad woman, looking like a crazy woman, and people were judging her thinking that she was homeless because she was always being seen with clothes and things that she would see and, random stuff that she would see. She was putting them in boxes and sending them to the Dominican Republic. My grandmother, to the very end, till she couldn't anymore, never stopped taking care of others. And that shelter, when she passed away, honored her because she was funding that shelter for a long time. She was sending them money. She was sending them clothes. She was sending them everything she could. I prayed to God and I prayed to my grandmother that someday I can continue that and I can do more. And my dream, and I've never shared this publicly, and I'm about to share it publicly for the very first time ever, I want to create a foundation one day. And I want to create a foundation that honors my grandmother's legacy. Sorry, I'm a little emotional right now. But I want to get back to this podcast. And I do want to say that, as you may know, folks, I have a microphone right here, and it's actually on. And I have certain tools that you need for a podcast, right? You need a soundboard, you need microphone, headset, and you may notice that I don't have that stuff. And that this is the third episode. I know I keep saying that, but this is the third episode of the podcast. And you guys may notice that I haven't used any of the gear. This audio is going to sound very echoey when you see this podcast. And I'll tell you why. Unfortunately, when I started the podcast, I didn't have some of the equipment that I needed. I didn't know I was going to need it. Again, it goes back to me not knowing too much about podcasting. That's why I had Joshi, someone with experience, be a co-host, because I learned a lot from him. And I've known Joshi for a long time. I've known Joshy since 2021. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to share this, but I'm going to call Joshy after this podcast episode because I love him that much. But when I finally bought all the gear that I need for a podcast so that the audio would sound better, something happened. Unfortunately, my laptop had liquid damage. And my laptop is actually still being repaired. I was thinking about buying a new one because I have a 2015 MacBook Air, and it's my baby. I love it. And I almost bought a new one because when I originally went to take my my MacBook to a repair center, they were talking about charging me almost the price of a new one. But I found someone who had interest in showing me that they could bring my laptop back to life and showing me that I can still use it for the next few years. And I said, you know what? If I don't have to spend that much money, then why not? You know, I do intend to still buy a new laptop at some point. But for now, hopefully when this laptop is fully repaired and it's back, back to work, I will be able to connect all these things together and finally give you guys an episode of a podcast with better audio. But until then, it's just me in this room. This is my office in Brooklyn. For those of you who are probably wondering what's that back there, what's all these certificates. But this is my office in Brooklyn. I have an office in Manhattan. I also have an office in California. And I hope that someday I can actually do a podcast episode from my office out in California, San Francisco. So normally these podcast episodes are long, about an hour and some change. But I'm going to make this episode a little shorter. And what I want to talk about to end this podcast is about a project that I recently did out in Philadelphia. I recently went out to Philadelphia on May 6th and May 7th, and I conducted an interview called A Month After Mania. And I got together a group of people, members of the WWE Universe, John Spencer, who originally was part of my WrestleMania Week project when I went out to Philly for WrestleMania Week. And he was there with his lovely wife, Jessica. They're both from the Poconos and they're wrestling fans. And it was so significant and so beautiful and I want you guys to see, visit my page, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, go to my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Rob Aurelius, and you'll see these videos. You'll see this content that I'm talking about. So John and Jess, Josh is on my mind, man. I miss Josh. I hope he's doing good. This is why I have to call him after this podcast because I miss him. I hope he's doing good. I haven't spoken to Josh in a while, and I hope he's doing well. Check on your friends, folks. If you really love someone, if you really care about somebody, check on them. But John and Jess, they came down from the Poconos, and we ARCG, my company, my media agency, we interviewed them. We asked them about WrestleMania, if they were excited for it, and they said yes. And then I interviewed John and Jess again a month after WrestleMania. John was actually physically there for the interview. Jess had sent us a video because Jess couldn't make it because of work. And then I had my friend Willie Reyes, who I hadn't seen in 2 years, help out with the project. I also had my good friend Justin Jones be a part of it. He couldn't be there in person, so he sent a video package as well. I had a new addition, a gentleman by the name of Marvin Prince, very nice guy. He actually lives in Philadelphia, and he's associated with a good friend of mine from childhood named Raymond. And before I mention anybody else, shout out to my photographer Diego Serrano. The work that I've been doing as of late, my birthday photo shoot that you guys maybe have already seen on my Instagram and Twitter and whatnot, all the work that you guys have seen me do, like all this content that I've been mentioning, like the month after Mania and the WrestleMania week stuff, that's all been shot and produced by Diego Serrano. Shout out to Diego. I met Diego this year. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me this year. One of the good things that have happened this year is my association and affiliation with Diego. So I'm very thankful for Diego, and I hope Diego sees this episode, and Diego can see that I am giving him his flowers, because Diego's a very hardworking person. And Diego right now is my protege, and I promise that I am going to help him become the best person he can be. And without Diego, some of these projects that I have recently done can't be possible. So this project, the month after Mania, was a survey where I brought WWE fans together, literally May 6th, May 7th, because WrestleMania was April 6th and April 7th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And I brought them all together just to ask them a month later, how do they feel about the current product? How do they feel about Cody Rhodes being WWE undisputed champion? How do they feel about Damian Priest being, world heavyweight champion? How do they feel about Becky Lynch, becoming the new women's world champion since, unfortunately, Rhea Ripley has recently got injured. And I did that project because my mental health was messing with me. This breakup with Ashley, personal things going on in my life. And I said to myself, every single time that I feel down, I keep remembering my ex-girlfriend's words. What makes Rob happy? What are some things that Rob loves to do? And one of the things I love to do is engaging in and creating something where I get people to. It's something about me. I've been doing this for a long time. A few years ago, I had an old associate of mine. His name was Henry. And Henry called me the connector. He says, you connect people together from different industries. Dentists and plumbers and people like, yeah, why would you connect a dentist and a plumber together? And I'm like, guys, it's very simple. One day that dentist is going to have an issue at his office and he's going to need a plumber. And that plumber is a human being. So one day he may need a dentist, because he might have some issues with his tooth. He might, or maybe somebody in his family might have an issue. So it's always okay to connect people from different industries. Guys, just because we have different jobs does not mean that we cannot network, does not mean that we cannot work together. We can work together. And by the way, normally I shoot from my laptop, like I mentioned to you guys. I'm actually shooting from my iPad with a keyboard, and I noticed that the video quality is a little better. Hopefully, when this laptop is repaired, the video quality becomes even better. And when I get a new laptop, or I might always I can't always just shoot from this iPad because the iPad does not have the outlets that I need to plug in the stuff that I need for this podcast to make it a very, productive podcast. So getting back to the project, I'm glad that I did that project. I was in Philadelphia, and my ex-girlfriend is from Philadelphia and lives in Philadelphia. And I've been to Philadelphia a handful of times since her and I broke up. And every single time that I go there, it's very difficult not to reach out to her. It's very difficult not to think about her. And I've done a good job at not reaching out to her because, I want to respect her boundaries. I want to respect her space. I know that she's focused on her career, and I don't want to be a distraction to her. I care about her that much. But this project was great. And what made it even special was that when I went out for the WrestleMania week project, I had seen a mural that was right in front of the Lincoln Financial Field. And I told Diego, do me a favor. We're going to shoot John and Jessica in front of this mural. And at the time, it was still a mural from their Winter Wonderland. And if you watch the video, you'll see what we're talking about. And after WrestleMania, they repainted the mural and made it more, obviously they updated it for it to be up to date. And when I shared those photos on social media, I had asked Diego to please share with me social handle of the muralists who created that mural. And I reached out to them, and they reached back out on social media, and they were happy that I tagged them, on their work, because that's what I love to do. I love to tag people. If I ever take a picture in front of a mural, or if I ever see something, like I go to a museum and there's a painting or whatever, and I see who created it, I will always, feature that artist in the post. And I reached out to them. They asked me, if you ever do another project, reach out to us. We would love to be a part of it. So when I knew that I was going to do the Month After Mania project, I reached out to them, told them what I was doing, and told them I wanted to surprise the guys that were going to be there. And it was a nice video. Again, guys, please go on my social media, Rob Aurelius, or go on ARCG Media. You can even go to the Resilient Pod social accounts, and you'll see the videos there retweeted. And after the project was done, I took the guys out. We took pictures in front of the mural, and I remember telling John, because he was there from day one, do you remember last time we were here? And he was like, yeah, the mural was different. There was Christmas trees on it. And then, I told Willie and Marv, who were part of the video, like, if you guys had anything to say to these muralists about their work, what would you say? And they shared how they felt, like, beautiful work. And then I said to them, well, the muralists of this beautiful artwork, their names are Justin and Kyle. And I was like, and they're right here. You could just tell them yourself. And they were so surprised when they saw these gentlemen walk out and, walk towards them. Reason why I wanted to share this is just because I want to thank everyone that was part of the project. Every single person. And I hope I don't forget any names, but I'm going to thank everybody right now before I continue to move forward. I want to thank John Spencer, Jessica Spencer, Marvin Prince, Diego Serrano, Oscar Leal, who's my editor and digital marketing guy, Willie Reyes, Justin Clement, Kyle Edwards, Justin Jones. Oh, I didn't forget anybody. And if I did, I'm so sorry. Oh, and I also want to thank my friend Raymond Fantuzzi, because he was the one who got me Marv, because he couldn't be part of the project, so he got Marv to come along. Thank you guys for making that project special. So anyways, the guys come out, and then I switch gears. We're still talking about professional wrestling. We're still talking about a month after WrestleMania. But we switch gears, and I interview them briefly for the Resilient Podcast. And I asked them a few questions. How did they meet? What's their favorite, wrestling memory? And the story that they shared was so beautiful. So beautiful. And I want you guys to see it. I want you guys to see these two videos. There's two videos. There's a video from May 6th and there's a video from May 7th. You guys can't miss out on this. It's beautiful. But it's a project that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of this project. So with that being said, the Resilient Podcast is going to do many projects. At some point, I want to have Josh come back to this podcast as a guest so that we can follow up with him and so that we can speak with him and see how he's doing. Because the last episode number 2, Josh, the episode was about him. And I asked him several questions, all surrounding resilience. And he did a good job, did a really good job. That's why when he told me he couldn't be a part of the podcast anymore, it broke my heart. Because I don't think there's a better partner than Josh to be part of the Resilient Podcast. And if ever in the near future, Josh ever wants to come back, the doors are always open. But, again, you got to respect people's decisions. You don't really know what's going on in someone's mind, what's going on in someone's life. And I'm just thankful that Josh was with me for 2 of these episodes. So, folks, hopefully the next time I do another episode, I'll have my gear. I'll be able to shoot a better episode for you guys. If not, then maybe the next one, episode number 5, because episode number 4 is coming up soon. But it's been great. I do want to tell you guys something before we end this episode. And what I want to share with you is something that I recently came up with. And I want to share it with you guys. And I saved it here on my phone. And I'm going to share it with you guys in a minute. Just give me a second. Normally I have these things ready. But today I actually have it saved on my phone. Normally, what we do is at the end of every episode, Josh and I would share words of wisdom. And I do admit that I'm a little bit unprepared today, and I appreciate it. But it is what it is. It's one of my favorite words of saying. So, folks, I'm a big social media person. And I want people to understand that social media provides a window into people's lives, giving us the illusion of access without real connection. We form impressions based on curated content, but this is a distorted view. Behind every post lies a multitude of layers and complexities that can never fully be captured online. True understanding and connection go beyond the surface, delving into the depth of a person's experiences, emotions, and interests. It's a reminder that there's always more to someone than what meets the eye on social media. To truly know someone, we must engage in genuine conversation, listen with empathy, and seek to understand the nuances that make each individual unique. With that being said, social media gives us a perception of access to people's lives without relationship with them. So we think we know people based on what they choose to share. It's a wrapped view. There are a million layers to a person that will never be revealed by posts they make. Never judge anyone. Never think that someone's got it better than you because of what they may post on social media. There's a lot of people out there posting on social media positive quotes, and they probably could be living the most saddest life ever. Or vice versa. Somebody could be posting a lot of sad stuff, but actually be very happy, right? A lot of that stuff could just be inspiration. The reason why I'm sharing this is with everyone is because it goes back to my first statement. World peace begins with hello. Please be nice. Please be good to people. Be good to yourself. And remember that life is short. And remember to love yourself and love everyone. Today, my message to the world is very simple. Here's my advice. Hug everyone you love a lot tighter. Never leave someone in an argument. Be present. Say I love you more. Take a lot of pictures with the ones that you love. You never know when it will be the last time you see them. Please don't take any second of this life for granted. Don't ever take anything for granted. With that being said, this concludes episode number 3 of the Resilient Podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. And pretty soon we'll start having some guests on the show, and I look so forward to it. But before we do, I hope I can find a new co-host. I miss Joshy Lopez. I know you're going to see this episode. You're my brother, and I love you. And despite any decisions that you make in this life, as long as they're positive, I'm always going to stay by your side. I love everyone. I love my ex-girlfriend, Ashley. I miss you. I hope you're doing good. I don't know if she watches these episodes. Hopefully she does. But I love everyone out there. And folks, please remember, One life to live it well. Don't fight, don't argue, don't treat people bad. Please, 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 please get along. And remember, love somebody today. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you all. And I'll see you guys in episode number 4. Peace.